thank each and every one of you for supporting Benevolence Podcast. I pray that as you tune in every week, you are empowered, blessed, and encouraged to be the best version of yourself. You are listening to episode 4, Resilience Through Life's Lemons. And on this episode of Benevolence, I have a very special guest who will be joining me at the table. Our special guest is one of the kindest and most gracious people that I know. I've known her for quite some time, and she has exemplified such resilience and grace in everything that she does. She is a wonderful wife and mother and comes from a wonderful family. And I'm so excited to have her join me at the table today. So without further ado, I have Nanette Mejia joining me at the table. This conversation was recorded digitally due to our season of social distancing. So make sure to sit back, relax, and enjoy this amazing episode from the lovely Nanette Mejia. Enjoy. Well, Nanette, thank you so much for being part of Benevolence Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So I just want to get right into it. So if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself so our listeners can get familiar with who you are and where you're from and all of that.
So my name is Nanette. I was born in Ponce, Puerto Rico. My dad, he's a pastor. He was like a superintendent for Assemblies of God. So, we grew up in Puerto Rico, and we were there for 10 years before we moved to Florida. And we lived in like several houses, and we had we had a lot of time to play outside, and I had a fun childhood outside. And yeah, those are most of my memories, especially with my grandparents always being in their house and them coming to get us, and going to the post office with my grandpa. Like, we did that stuff on the weekends, going to the mall, being there all day with my grandma, watching novelas at night.
Oh, that's awesome.
To say that. But we did. So always outside. I never wore shoes.
Oh, wow.
I feel like how do you say, like, my girls do that now. They hate wearing shoes.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like they have a little part of me. But yeah, always outside, and we used to play in the rain, like all those thunderstorms in Puerto Rico. So that was one of my memories there, yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, then we moved to Florida, and then we began another journey here. Yeah.
And how was that? Like, how was that experience moving from Puerto Rico to Orlando?
Looking back, I would say, like, it was kind of, I don't want to say traumatic, but it was a lot, like, for me. Like, going to a new school, and the system was different. I barely passed 5th grade. I think I was doing really bad. I couldn't get used to my teacher, and it was just it was a different system. I didn't have any friends. I had one friend, and we would meet up in the library and read books and stuff. That's how we bonded. So I started reading books because I was just afraid of being with other kids,
Yeah.
I'm a bookworm now, but I remember, that's just that awkward, like, waiting for class to start would just kill me. So I would just rather be looking for a book,
Yeah.
So it was a transition. Like, I think everybody goes through, I think life is full of transitions. It's just a matter of finding the positive. So my positive was just like, okay, I'm just going to read, and hopefully, I find another friend, or if not, like, I'll have my one friend, and then we'll just, hang out. But and then being in church every Sunday, stuff like that.
So covering the pastor's kid, that hat, was it hard with seeing your parents, like, just take on that big responsibility?
I think when I was little, it wasn't, as hard, because we just went to kids' church, and then, we hung out with our friends after church. I think when I got older, and like as a teenager, I felt like pressured to be perfect. I don't think anybody, maybe, I don't want to say like anybody put that pressure on me, but it was just, like, you were aware that people were looking at you and watching you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, like, people wouldn't really, I put a front almost, just so that, everybody was like, oh, I didn't want to be the topic of conversation.
Yeah.
So it was just easier to just blend in, not say anything, you know, if you aren't comfortable with the pressure, like, you know, people are looking at you, or like some I remember one time, like, you know, ushers would be like really mean to us, and then like I would tell my dad, and then, you know, they'd be like, oh, that's Rena's kids, yes, come in, you know, and just be like, you're such a hypocrite.
Mm-hmm.
Things like that. You know, like when you're like 13, 14, you're just like, oh, I don't want to go to church on Sunday, you know, I just don't want to, I don't want to do it, like deal with it.
Yeah.
So there were definitely those moments. But when I was a kid, I just, you know, remember my dad preaching, and, you know, sometimes we would get like little gifts from like the churches or whatever. I just remember those moments. But when we got to Florida, I think it was just, they were just trying to, you know, make our transition easier.
Mm-hmm.
So we were just, yeah, we had like a routine. Like it was like, we knew we were going on Wednesday nights. We knew we were going on Sundays, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah. But as you got older, as I got older, it didn't get worse. It's just, you just stopped caring a little bit, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I guess I came to Orlando at 17, and I came with the mentality that I'm going to rebel, because I did not want to come over here. And like, I think with my parents, they were ministers in Miami. So I had, like, similar to you, like I had eyes on me that whole time.
Yeah.
And I think when we finally broke out, I was like, forget this. Like, I don't care what people think about me. And yeah, it was a very crazy transition.
It wasn't even an option. It was just more like, just be quiet and get through it. And one day, like, they won't be here, or like, you know, I won't be in this situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep it moving, and almost like I didn't care.
You know? Yeah. So let's talk about relationships. So we're transitioning over to, you know, you meeting your husband, and how was that? You know, how was meeting Sammy, and just knowing that, you know, getting into a relationship, knowing he wanted to pursue basketball and all of that. So how were you able to transition and, you know, continue your goals and dreams while having to adapt to that lifestyle?
So I met Sammy. I knew who he was. I can't remember when the first time I met him. I just knew him. Like, he was there. Like, you knew him.
Yeah.
Pastor Gabe's brother. Like, you knew the 10 of them, or however many there.
Yeah.
So there was like, I don't even know. Like, we just found ourselves talking, and I remember, I think Petri and my mom, like, they made this plan to, like, they knew that I liked him, but I didn't even know that I liked him. So I'm like, how did y'all know? Like, you know,
Yeah.
he has a great personality. He's cute. And I think they probably noticed that. So one New Year's Eve, like 2005 or something, he told Petri so that I could call him, like, for New Year's Eve or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we started talking. And so it was so innocent, and I was just like, oh, okay, we're just talking. And then, you know, his family was always with my family, so we were always in the same space. But I didn't think he noticed me, so I didn't even try to, like, be, you know, like, to be, you know, how do you say, like, for him to look at me, because I was just like, he's not looking at me, like, no. So yeah, I don't know how that came about, honestly. Like, sometimes I'm like, how are we together? I don't know. It just happened.
That's so funny. And so now, when you were talking and you began to date, was he pursuing basketball?
Yeah, he was. He was in college, and he, you know, it was like his goal to, like, make it to the pros or whatever. So I knew that was his goal, and so that, you know, that was it. So it was all about trying to make it there. And so he made it. He was drafted in 2007. And so when he went to Greece, he was drafted. No, first he went to Italy. That was, I think, January 2008. And then he was going to Greece in the fall of 2008. And so I was like, I want to go with you, So then the only way I could go with him was if we were married. So I was like, okay, well, let's get married. Like, we've been together for a while. So I asked my dad, and he was like, okay, I got to talk to him. And so they spoke, and obviously, like, he asked for my hand or whatever. And so we got married, and we started this crazy journey.
Yes. And I think that's like why I wanted you to like join me on this episode, because like I've seen from the outside in, I saw the whole thing. You know what I mean? Like from the outside, because I came in 2005 and I've seen all of that. I've been to your lovely wedding and all of that, see your kids grow, and you have your daughters, and you move right after, so I kind of wanted you to just share that, and although Sammy, he's doing his thing, this episode's more about you and how you were able to transition. How were you able to, adapt to a different lifestyle so young and right after you got married, you know what I mean? So how did you adjust to all of that?
So Greece was an interesting year because this is just when the economy was crashing.
Oh my goodness.
So that was one aspect. So we get to Greece, and I'm so homesick because I've never been away from my parents. I would cry all day. Like every day I was sobbing. I miss my family. I wanted to be with them. And it was exciting because I'm like, okay, we're married. We're in Europe. Like, this is fun. So some days it was fun. And then other days I'm just like, I don't want to be here. I want to be with my parents, So I just remember days when I was just sobbing. I wasn't, like being out of my comfort zone. I don't like that at all. So that was a transition, and like just being by myself in a different country. Like, I don't know how I did it.
Yeah.
Like I would take the bus to the center of the city and, explore by myself. So that was times like that were exciting. I got yelled at by a bus driver one time.
Oh my God.
And I still don't know what he said, but I was so embarrassed. And I was like, I'm never taking the bus again. And I was just basically alone. Like Sammy he was gone. And I was just alone, like in my apartment. So it was just about, trying to navigate that, like, being alone in a foreign country. There's a lot of lows, but I think me and Sammy got a chance to like really know each other, because obviously, like most Christian marriages, you don't live together, you don't, so it's just about learning how to live with another person and how to, like what that entails. And so it was just a learning year. And then towards the end of the year, the economy was crashing. Sammy's team was doing really bad. There was a lot of riots that first year. People were getting desperate, and so we did not get paid like 2 to 3 months.
Wow.
That next year, like nobody really knows that. They're like, oh yeah, Nanette, you're living in Grandma's. Like no. There's been several years where they were just like, no, I'm not going to pay you. They're in financial distress. They're not going to pay their players. And so you just got to deal with that. So that year was really tough. So we went home that summer and we were like, we don't know what we're doing. And we didn't get paid for these 3 months. Like, what do we do? You're looking for another job. And it was really hard waiting for that next job, because you're always just waiting for that next offer. So finally, after that year, he got signed in France, and like we finally had some stability.
Okay.
Which was awesome.
How were you able to manage your faith entering into like a season of uncertainty? Because, I mean, I'm sure it was hard for you to go to church when that was something you were used to doing in Florida. How were you able to manage that overseas?
We watched a lot of live streams at like 3 o'clock in the morning. Well, especially me, because I was home alone. Sammy was, he was gone. I just remember him being gone. I'm like, I was just basically alone that first
Oh my God.
I know. So I watched a lot of live stream at like 3 in the morning. You have like your own devotional time that you have to prioritize, especially, since you're not going to church at all. We just did a lot of that. And then as technology progressed, then, you know, like especially now we listen to podcasts and, you know, whatever, you have access to all the music on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just, yeah, doing that and then having your own time, which, you know, you kind of have to do to keep sane, especially in those years where you didn't know, like, you know, you didn't know what was going to happen in 3 months. You didn't know where you were going to be in 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
So you just kind of put your, you know, you got to just say, okay, like, our life, our, you know, our career is in your hands, and wherever you go, we will go. You know, wherever you send us, we will go. So we got to France. We after Greece, we signed in France for 2 years, and that was like the kind of like the breath, like we took a breath that year.
Okay.
They won the championship. We were more comfortable with each other. Like as a couple, we grew a little bit. I think being away from your family, I think that's one thing that we decided, like, that was actually a great learning tool, you know, because you need to make decisions for yourself, and you need to find your own way, like your own thoughts, your own, you know, have your own experiences, and not have anyone like, you know, like being there, you know, as a woman, as a grown person, it's like, I feel it's important for you. I feel like that's how we were navigating, yeah, that year, and just prioritizing our marriage, prioritizing our friendship first of all, you know, like,
yeah,
how are we as people, and how can we, you know, be better at this? Like, it was just about getting better as a couple. So I feel like those years were, you know, like our foundation years, where
mm-hmm.
we
Absolutely
had a lot of those moments. Yeah.
That's good. So moving overseas, what countries did you live in?
We lived in Greece, then we lived in France for 2 years, then we lived in Russia, then we lived in Turkey.
Wow.
5 countries.
Jeez Louise. Now, when you were young, did you ever think you would be traveling all over the world practically? Not all, but you know.
Going back to what you said, I didn't really have any dreams. Like, I just, I didn't see myself going on adventures. Like, I feel like my, you know, my imagination was so small. Like you know, like I didn't feel like I could go on adventures, or like, I didn't feel like that was an option for me. So
yeah.
So when I got married, I was like, okay, like, this is gonna be our life, and if it is, then okay. But it turned out to be like this crazy adventure where we would travel to so many places, see so many things, and I never dreamed ever that I would be able to see the things that I've seen, you know.
Wow, that's beautiful. So beautiful. So what was your favorite country to live in?
My favorite country to live in was France, because it's just beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved our years in France. It was so simple. Like, our life was simple. I would go get bread, and, you know, we would have a croissant. And then, you know, like, our family grew in France. We had Sienna. So it just holds a lot of memories. And that's the year we decided, let's have fun. Like, in Greece, it was very dark, and, you know, like, the economy was bad. Like, everybody was just, it was just a lot of darkness. So I feel like in France, it was better. We were happier. I was a bit more, you know, free. Like, I was like, let's just have fun and not cry every day. I would still cry, but not as much.
Yeah.
So, you know, I made a friend there, and so I felt mentally we were better in France, and then we decided to start a family. So we was just preparing for that. And then, you know, Sienna came, and like, everything changed.
Wow. Of course. Children change everything.
Absolutely do.
Especially in a foreign country, you know.
I gave birth in a foreign country. I'd never thought I would do that.
Oh my goodness.
That was an experience in and of itself. Yeah, those memories, I'll never forget them ever, you know.
Yeah, for sure. So well, you're back in the States now due to, you know, this unfortunate circumstance of coronavirus, you know, but where did you live, and what makes that country so unique?
I don't know. That Turkey is just special, you know. The people are special, the food is amazing. I just feel like we went into Turkey with complete, you know, open eyes, open hearts. And so we just fell in love with it. You know, the people that we met there are so kind, the kindest people, the most giving people, like the players and the coaches that we met on both teams. It's just they just welcome you, and so we felt so at home, and I think that's why it was home for those almost 8 years.
Wow.
It was just different, you know. We came there's a lot of cultural differences, and I feel like for us they were positive for us, you know. It was a Muslim country, but we were like, you know, we had no preconceived notions of like what Muslims are and how they are, but no, they loved us and they welcomed us and they treated us like family. And so then we were like, you know, because most Americans, I feel like they go into countries and they try to make it America.
Yeah.
They end up being so unhappy. We decided we're gonna accept what the country is and like what it has to offer, and you just live in their terms, you know, like you fell in love with the food, you fell in love with the people, and then you're just happier. Like, because if I keep trying to change my environment, I'm never going to be happy. If I accept my environment, then, you know, that's how we were able to live in peace for those 8 years. You know, obviously they went through, you know, a lot of terrorist attacks when we were there, and there was some times where I'm like, why are we here? You know, like, but no, we were as a family, we're together, and yeah, that's why, you know, we love it so much. The people there are just amazing, and we just fell in love with them. Yeah.
That's great. That's awesome. I like what you said about, you know, Americans trying to go and change it, you know, to Americanize it. And, you know, I've never been out of the country, so hopefully in the future after this whole mess that we're in, you know, I can go. But it's true. I just talked to one of my friends yesterday, and she just came back from Panama, in South America because of this emergency. And she was just saying, she's like I'm heartbroken that I'm leaving, you know. She's like, the people there, I just fell in love with the people, and you know, sometimes like Americans were so close-minded, you know, and we're not accepting. But she's like, I truly loved where I lived and where I served, because she was part of the Peace Corps. So it was just, she's telling me this, and I'm like, I need to hurry up and get out of here, you know what I mean, and to visit places, you know. But it was so nice what you said.
It's a big lesson, I feel like, especially for Americans who feel that America is the greatest country in the world. And okay, for us, like, yes, whatever, you know, but it's just about finding beauty in other countries, finding, you know, the heart of the country are usually in its people. So when you are willing to accept people for who they are and, like, you know, not try to change them. And that's why I feel like, you know, our family is so kind of beloved, because we never went there and, you know, asked like, where's the Hard Rock Cafe? No, like, we're gonna eat rice and we're gonna have kebabs, and that's what we're gonna eat because that's what they eat there. Exactly. And, you know, and if you want to eat something else, then okay. But I feel like we're always trying to, you know, change everyone. And so when you go to new places and just accept and just kind of ask yourself, like, what can I learn from here? What can I learn from these people? What can I learn from this country? What can I take, you know, what can I take from my experience here? It's so much more positive, and you just, you know, you just feel, they make you feel at home. And so it feels like home. It was my home. Like, it felt like my home when I was not there. I was like, I could go back because that's where I live, you know?
Exactly. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. So, you know, Turkey, and I know you mentioned the whole, you know, that they're primarily a Muslim religion. And so how is that different? How, you know, did you wake up every morning and hear a prayer outside, you know, or did you just, yeah?
Yes.
Oh my God.
In the first city we went to, it was very small. And so, yeah, we heard it every morning at 6 in the morning. And after a while, you just kind of stopped hearing it.
Oh my goodness. I'm just guessing. Like, I'm like, oh.
How it is. Like, our apartment was really close to a mosque. And so every time somebody came, we were like, okay, you're going to wake up at 6 in the morning. You're going to hear a guy talking, like singing, praying and singing. And it's normal. And just go back to sleep. Like, it's totally fine. So, yeah, you know, it was like, sorry, my phone fell.
You're fine. You're good.
it was our environment, so we just accepted it, and we closed the windows when we didn't want to hear it, and we just accepted that that's what it was. I never went there with that, like, ew, like I hate this,
Yeah,
no,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
that's what it is. And yeah, it's part of the experience.
Yeah, for sure. And your daughters, when they, well, I mean, they, if they were born into that, that's the norm for them, right?
Yeah, it is. So Sienna, we came to Turkey when she was 1, and Penny, she came when she was 2 months. So they were literally raised there, and it was just normal. It's normal. Um, yeah, it's just a part of their daily life. And so on Fridays they go to the mosque, and yeah, that's what it is.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's crazy. So, how are you able to stay connected with people throughout your time in Europe? So, like, do you have support groups? Are you part of like a Facebook group, or are you friends with, the other basketball wives? So how are you able to connect with people?
There's literally a Facebook group, like the Love and Basketball Facebook group
Oh, wow.
from the movie. Yeah, and it's literally just you're a bunch of women just sharing their experiences, asking how, I'm going to this team. What was your experience? How can you help me in my experience there in the coming year? So that was really helpful. There's a lot of women that came before me to Europe that have a lot of information. And then as Sammy's career progressed, we got 12 years of information. So there's literally that. And then in Turkey, there's a lot of foreigners in Turkey. So, I found a group of women, like foreign women who were in my city, and we just connected and we made friends. And that's how, I was able to live there for so long, because we made friends, and it was like they became my family. And so our kids would play together, and we would play together, and we would say, oh God, I kind of want to go home. And then sometimes when we go home, we're like, we could go back to Turkey. Like, talk about, it's so normal. Like, your emotions go up and down, and to have somebody to share that and experience it with you was so important, I think. Every day sharing your experiences, and, asking for advice. And there's people that have been in Turkey for years, Americans, Germans, Italians, French people, like everyone has been in Turkey. And yeah, you just find yourselves, and as mothers, as wives, you need that group. Like, you need the women. Even me, I'm an introvert, and I'm like, I don't really need people, but no, you do. Like, there's going to be times when they're going to be like your family, like your only hope. And when you're feeling down, you get together, and then you become a family. And that's what I had there.
Wow, that's good. That's good to know. Did you, now coming into it, like, just recently married, moved over to Greece, with your husband, first year, did you know about all of that? Did you get connected? How were you able to find all of that? Or were you just alone?
I feel like in Greece I was alone. It was me and another girl. We were really young, so there was not a lot of married people. They're always the only ones married and the only ones with kids, I feel like, in a lot of those years.
Okay.
But yeah, you find somebody who knows somebody, and you kind of network like that. Like, when there's like a bunch of Americans who see each other, you're like, oh my God, do you know the best place to eat? And you're like, yeah, go here, blah, blah, blah. They have great chicken wings or whatever it is, and then you just meet people like that, and then you connect, and then you friend each other on Facebook. And then that's literally how I started, like, with Facebook and emailing, and yeah, that's it. And then you kind of find a bunch of other people, and that's how I found this group, and it's like thousands of women in Europe. It's
Wow,
crazy.
that's so good to know. So good. So raising a family overseas. Um, First off, did you ever imagine raising children in Europe?
Never. It's different. I feel like, well, yeah, they were raised in Turkey, and it's just different. Like, people there are they love kids. They're obsessed with children in Turkey. So I
Mhm.
feel like the girls were just doted on. Like, they loved their curly hair, and they knew we were not from there, so they were just like, they want to get to know you. They want, where are you from? Like, your hair is so curly, like things like that.
Yeah.
The way they raise kids there, their kids are so free, and everything is is for the kids. Like when you go out to a restaurant, any restaurant that you go to has a play area for kids.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a family country. I feel like we never felt uncomfortable, being with our kids, taking our kids out to eat. There are 4 children there, so I feel like it was the best place to raise my kids, because they allow the kids to be free and be loud and crazy, and that's how it is there.
Okay.
So the girls kind of got used to that.
Okay. Did you face I always ask, like, did you face any sort of racism, because a lot of people, they look at America differently. They look at Americans differently. I know that my friend I spoke to yesterday, she was seen differently. So I don't know if you.
I think it depends. I feel like we will have to get used to, when Sammy retires, they get treated a lot better than, let's say, some random American who comes to Turkey, because my Sammy played basketball and he was very popular, and so they kind of treat you well.
Okay.
There's someone made a comment one time that I'll never forget. I'm like, oh, Sienna's her skin color is so, I'm thank God that she didn't get your husband's skin color. Someone told me that one time. And I was like, okay, or like, they just they can't believe that someone's so dark, like, it's like some people have never seen a black man before, or a super dark skinned man, so things like that, they stare a lot. Yeah, it's different. Like, I remember one time walking these one of Sammy's teammates or somebody, he had dreads and he was walking down the street, and it was like, oh my God, what is happening? Like, people were shocked.
Wow.
Walking down the street. But it's like they have never left their town. Like, some people have never left their town, so you kind of have to give people grace, a little bit. So yeah, that's how we're not. I'm super chill. Like, there's a lot of people that get really upset, especially with their kids, and they're staring, and why are they staring? And I'm like, girl, because they've never seen anybody like you, So we're super chill about that. So it was just, that's how they are, and you're just like, hi, I speak, I'm a person.
Yeah. That's good to know. That's so good.
Yeah.
So my next question is, how did you establish biblical foundations in your household, living in a country that is predominantly of a Muslim religion?
Well, you start at home. There's going to come a time, especially as the kids get older, where they're going to ask questions, and you're going to ask you what you believe, and you have to tell them what you believe. And so that's what we did. And, we have our Bibles, and they have their kids' Bibles, and whenever they have a question, you just, that this is what we believe. They believe in Allah. We believe in God. We believe in Jesus. And have your time to answer those questions, and have your own like devotional time with the kids, and and have your prayer time, before they go to bed and stuff like that. Just start those habits, because they know that they pray 5 times a day to Allah. And so you kind of, I try to find more in common than being like, no, they're wrong, they're
Okay.
God.
Yeah, that's good.
We pray, and so do they. It's just different. I never tried to make it seem like what they were doing was wrong. Like, they believe what they believe, and we believe what we believe, and that's it. I never tried to make it a negative thing. This is just me.
No, yeah.
I just wanted, like, I never wanted to be seen as, oh, those people, they don't believe what we believe, and we're not going to speak to them. No, I'm like, we live here, we're brothers, like. So that was my approach.
Yeah. Okay, that's awesome. Thank you. It's just refreshing to hear, because I've never been overseas. I don't know what it's like, and and you giving me this insight, of how it is, and it ain't, I don't know, just the way that you took these steps to raise a family overseas, it just makes it more graceful, and for those that are thinking about doing that in the future, they can obviously lead by your example. So
it's definitely, you just learn, and you make mistakes, especially as a young parent, and you just gotta forgive yourself and then start over the next day. Really all you can do.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So moving on, I wanted to debunk some common misconceptions because I'm sure you've had eyes on you since you were a kid, and there's still eyes on you now, as you come back and as you start living your life in the States, and if you have to go back, or Sammy has to go back, there's just things that I'm sure people want to know and want to hear from you directly. So we have 4 common misconceptions. So the first one is that your lifestyle, the lifestyle of a basketball player's wife. I didn't want to say like,
I hate that.
I hate it.
Cringe.
It's cringe. Like I was writing the notes and I'm like, I do not want to say basketball wife. I just don't want to go there because I've seen the show and I just don't.
Ew, I can't get myself to watch it. It makes me want to crawl out of my skin.
Yes, it's too much. It really is. But the first one is that the lifestyle is glamorous.
That's gonna be a no. I think if you get a decent apartment in Europe, you're winning. Like decent, the water's running, there's heat, you're winning. Because most experiences are either really bad or bad. So I feel like we got lucky because one time we had an apartment, like we were like, I feel like the walls were just covered in water. Why? I don't know. Like there was leaks. Like we were just looking like there's a hole right there. Why? So stuff like that. I just remember you just gotta laugh and like this is where we live. Like I remember, and even the situation is different. It's not glamorous at all. Like in Greece, that one time they didn't pay. One time we came back from Christmas break, they didn't pay our heating, so our apartment was freezing.
My God.
So we came back to a freezing apartment and we had to sleep in our coats because they were like, we're going through financial troubles and we're not going to pay your heat. It's just hilarious. So yeah, that's not true at all. I mean, I don't know about like the NBA is a whole other thing. Europe, if you have a decent apartment, you're good. Like you're winning. But other than that, I wouldn't say it's glamorous at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. All right. So basically the next one is the job playing basketball is easy. They just play and they go back home.
Oh, I love that. Because it's not. It's so, people are so, like we talk about it all the time, like they're so ready to chew you up and spit you out. Like you see somebody play for 40 minutes and you're like, like you suck or blah, 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 or, you're terrible at your job. Like I can't find any other career where somebody just talks so much, so badly about you, like to your face, to your Twitter, like you're horrible. Why are you playing? I can't believe you wouldn't do that to any other person in any other field.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. It's not easy for us. It's not easy for them. Like as the players, mentally, it's a lot for them mentally and physically. There's some coaches, some experiences that Sammy's had that his friends have had. If you're doing 2-a-days, you're practicing for 2-3 hours twice a day. You get home barely, you eat, you take a nap because you're exhausted. So one time, especially when I was pregnant in France, like me and Sammy saw each other for like 4 hours a day because I was like, when I was pregnant, I wasn't sleeping at night. So then when he would wake up, I would go to bed. Okay. And then I would wake up and then he would take a nap and then we would meet each other in the evening. Like,
oh, wow.
He was so exhausted and I wasn't sleeping at night. So there was just those moments where you're there just dead, like, and you're alone. So going back to, oh yeah, life is glamorous. Like, no, you're alone a lot at home, So, but yeah, it's definitely, it's really hard, especially when you use your body. Your body is your job. You have to be disciplined. And especially for me, like, being a spectator, but being a wife, you hear them making these comments and you're like, dude, I'm sitting right here. Like, I can understand what you're saying. And they're speaking crap about your husband, or they're, about the coach or whatever. You start getting really defensive about them, because it's really hard what they do. Like, what they have to learn plays. They have to know, when he comes here, you go here. And then there's like a whole thing they have to memorize. Like, I couldn't do it. I couldn't be able to do it. So, yeah, the job is hard. And as a wife, it's really, really, really hard, especially when they're not happy.
Mm-hmm.
You're not happy. Like, if this situation is bad, then we're not happy. In Moscow, Sammy wasn't happy. So that was the worst year ever, because, he would try not to bring his work home, but he wasn't happy. So, I cried a lot in Moscow too, because we're like, why are we here? And I was alone with a kid. So I was alone a lot. And then he wasn't happy. It wasn't a good year. So it's a lot of, I wouldn't say lows, but it's a lot of, mundane, a lot of lows. And if you get those highs, they're great highs, and you're happy for them. But yeah, it's hard. It's really hard.
Well, thank you for letting us know, because from the outside looking in, we're like,
Yeah,
he's back home.
No, it's really hard. I mean, every job is hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's just yeah, everybody's really quick to have their opinions, and oh no, you guys are living the life. I'm like, okay, but we see each other. Sometimes he's gone for a week. Sometimes he was gone for 10 days. Like,
wow,
you got to adjust to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. The next one is, adapting to the culture and language is a piece of cake. I got this online. I didn't write this.
No, adapting to the culture. I feel like Greece, I was pretty fluent in Greek. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, when I would go shopping, like, I would try to adapt. Like, I feel like there's more European countries, they're easier to adapt to. Like, Greece, I was pretty good at adapting, and I just literally ate like 100 gyros that year. That's what I did. But yeah, the culturally, they were similar to us, I feel like, and
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of coffee, and the cigarette smoking killed me. But other than that, like, we would go to a restaurant and we would come back home and be like, we literally smell. Like, you saw the smoke of cigarettes. So that in Europe is just like normal. So even now, I'm like, I don't flinch when there's a cigarette, which is so bad, because I got so used to it.
Oh my gosh.
But France, I felt like their pace of life is so different. So you kind of had to like adjust, because we're always trying to be quick in America, especially. They're like, no, this is how we live, and we are going to take a holiday today and the next week. And I felt like there was always a holiday, and everybody was just so chill. And, we got used to that. Moscow, I never got used to it. I didn't even try. That was a tough year for me personally.
Yeah.
I just had a baby, and I feel like I was blue a little bit, and yeah, that year was tough. But yeah, Turkey, we fully adjusted and we learned the language. And so yeah, that's the easiest country we've been in, because we had time to like adjust. I feel like most countries, people don't want to adapt, because they're like, I'm gonna be here in a year, so I don't even want to adjust, because I'm gonna leave.
Yeah.
But we were lucky that we had stability, and so yeah, we just went in and learned the language and adapted to the culture.
That's good. Thank you. And our final myth is, everything is a vacation. So if you could just explain, how I want to explain is that, what we see is that you're in Europe, and, every weekend we assume that every weekend you're traveling here, there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you could just tell us what you think.
Well, there were times when we were like, let's just go, especially when Sammy had a couple days off, and you're in Europe. The good thing about Europe is that you're literally 2 hours away from a whole different country.
Wow.
So it's so awesome. So if you have a long weekend, and the flights are cheaper, like, let's just go. When will we ever have this time or this experience? So there was a couple of times where I'm like, we traveled a lot. But mostly every day, no, it's not a vacation, it's your home. And you're home and you're cooking and you're cleaning, and then you had kids, so then you're home and you're cooking and you're cleaning and you're taking care of a kid. And Sammy's very disciplined, so he likes fresh vegetables, and I like cooking, I don't complain, but so that's what I have to do. So that's, I cook and clean, and yeah, and then they go to school, so then you wake up and then you got to take them to school, and then you come back and you cook and clean, and then you take them up and you do the same thing, and it's, you got to do homework, so it becomes a routine. Yeah, so it's definitely not a vacation, but I feel like we were privileged enough to have those moments where we took advantage as a family and we explored. And yeah, those memories I'll cherish forever, because we were like, let's just go here, we'll never have this time again, so let's go. And then we found another country that we wanted to go to, so we've been lucky enough to visit a lot of places. Yeah, because I feel like we're stuck, sometimes I'm like, oh, we've been stuck in this house, and it's honestly, it's not as glamorous. So those times where we could have a little adventure, we go for it for sure.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
So finalizing our episode, let's see. What word of encouragement would you give to women about, faith in times of uncertainty, or when life takes a different turn?
When life takes a different turn, you just have to have faith. Like, there are those times when Sammy didn't have a job and we weren't getting paid. Those were hard times when we were just like, God, we know that you have a purpose for us, and we know that this is where this is where you have us right now, so you're going to provide, and he would. And that one summer that we were like, okay, we had a bad year. Nobody's signing right now because the economy was really bad. And so we waited, and he didn't get signed until September. And that's when we went to France. And that was maybe the best year for our marriage. And, for our family, we decided, and we were so comfortable that we decided to start a family. So I just feel like you always have to just have faith and, understand that there are going to be times where you're not, what you had in mind is not going to happen. And what life decides to throw at you, you just have to keep going and keep moving, and and do it all over again, adapt, and live. And then if another curveball comes, then you adapt, and then you literally do that. That's it. Because if not, then it's like you become bitter, and then you become, you don't grow. And it's the whole point of life is just to grow and keep getting better. And so those moments are bad in the moment, but when you look back, you're like, that was a growing year. We grew so much, in our faith, and as a couple, in our marriage, as a parent. There's years when you're like, those were some growing pains, but I'm a better parent now. I'm a better communicator now because of that year. To just be positive. And I'm not the most positive person, but you just have to have a little positivity.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And my final questions, and then we'll end this. What were some things that you learned about yourself since this whole time you've been overseas?
Something I learned about myself was that I'm resilient. Like, you can take me anywhere, and I will make it a home. And I will, take my lemons and make lemonade with it. There are times when you didn't have, food, for example, or church, for example, and you just got to make do with what you have. And I feel like it's taught me, those experiences have taught me that I am capable. I am able to do what I have to do when I have to. So those times when I was alone with my kids and Sammy was gone, you just had to keep going. Like, I'm not going to have a breakdown now. I can have it later. But for, to be there for my kids, to be sane, I'm going to be strong, And in those times where, Sammy didn't know where his next move was, you just have to be the pillar of faith for your family, even for him, like, or he for me. You just kind of bounce back, because you're not always going to be, that perfect, like, oh, everything's going to be okay. No, like there's going to be times where I'm down and he's up, and then he's down and I'm up, and we kind of have to, like bounce back. So I know that in any situation that we can do it. Like we can do anything we have to do together. Like as a team, we got this. Like we're the best team. Our kids we literally put them in a school where nobody spoke their language, and they thrived.
Wow.
And it's awesome. Like we can we can do anything if we put God first, and we have each other, and that's it. And so as a family unit, I feel like these last, I don't know, 12 years have been an education for us. Like we grew, we just need each other, and that's it, and God, and that's it. And everything else is noise. When it's just us, we can do anything.
Amen. That's good. You go, girl.
It's been a learning process, but finally, we came to that.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Nanette, I just want to thank you for sharing your story with us. You're such like an inspiration to me. You've always been, from afar, I read your blog, I look at your stuff, just to keep tabs on your life and in your family. And you are a blessing to me regardless of the distance and stuff. So just thank you for being part of this. Thank you for sharing your story with our listeners. And I'm sure everybody has questions, and now, they wanted to hear from you.
Yeah.
And, thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you for letting me be a part of it.
Thank you, Nanette, for sharing your story with us. And thank you all for tuning into Benevolence, where kindness matters and all are welcome to the table. Make sure to follow me on Instagram at Benevolence Podcast or at I am Ceci Diaz to know a little bit more about me and Benevolence. Benevolence Podcast is available on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, TuneIn, iHeart, and the Stitcher app. And finally, if there's a topic that you would like for us to discuss in the future, please do not hesitate to email me at benevolencepodcast@gmail.com with requests, petitions, or comments. I want to hear from you. Stay tuned for our new Benevolent Wednesday feature, where different women share their stories of what God has done in their life. Stay tuned for next Monday's episode of Benevolence. You don't want to miss it. Bye!